If you listen to the show for any amount of time, you know that I do have a merch store or two, and I don't generally push my merch because I don't feel comfortable hitting you guys up for money. But if you're listening to me on anything resembling a regular basis, you probably laugh at the same things I do. You probably think a lot of the same things I do. So why don't you go check out horribledesigns.com. They have assorted merchandise with funny comments on it, funny t-shirts, funny mouse pads, funny coffee cups, and then some stuff that maybe not necessarily so funny, but is definitely relevant, whether it's a social opinion, an economic opinion, a stance on, things like veganism, or whether or not you need essential oils in your life. So, yeah, anyway, that's my little plug. I have some of their shirts. They're comfortable. They're cool. I like them. HorribleDesigns.com. Go check it out. The podcast you are about to listen to contains at least one of the following: strong language, disturbing topics, abusive opinions, generally things that aren't appropriate for little kids or overly sensitive people. So, if any of that stuff's going to get your nose out of joint, this is your chance to turn it off. Welcome to I Had to Say It, the podcast where I talk about things that I feel need talking about, and sometimes they're not getting the attention they deserve. And your feelings, they're not under consideration. So, to the apprise of pretty much no one, things are not going great in this country at this point. Kind of like the memes say, I've yet to see a single person with a Build Back Better hat, because nothing's being built, nothing's fucking better. And the economy's in the toilet. The politicians are still pushing the narrative that they're somehow trying to do something for anyone other than themselves. And the stupid people whose entire personalities and their whole persona is tied up in, they can't admit that's one of the problems with this country. People can't admit they made a fucking mistake. Because everywhere I look, social media, I don't do mass media type stuff anymore other than the social media platforms. I refuse to watch the news. It's all horse shit. You can't believe any of it. It's just propaganda machines, and they're not even trying anymore, so I don't. I read articles. I read a lot of news reports from multiple sources in and outside of this country. It's the nice thing about having access to the internet. At least you can get multiple opinions. Granted, you have to try a lot harder these days because every major search engine and platform has an agenda, and they're pushing their own agendas. So it's not like you can just randomly go out and just look things up. You have to actually do a little footwork, but I digress. I'm focusing on things here in the United States. They're not good. And they're not showing any indications of getting any better. And all the people that were warning that this was coming, that basically fell on deaf ears, are having the longest, most unsatisfying I told you so fucking ever, probably. The thing is, there's so many of these fucking people out here. And in this case, I know it seems like I pick on the left and the, so-called liberals and the Democrats a lot, but I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's because at the moment, they're the most vocal assholes in the ring. It's not that, I consider myself very centrist. However, a lot of the more vocal leftists out there will tell me that I'm some kind of right-wing asshole because I don't want to immediately get on board with every single piece of bullshit they're pushing. And I definitely don't want to try and make excuses for the absolute clusterfuck. I am the closest thing I could say to being right-wing is I don't believe in big government, and theoretically that's what the right is supposed to believe in, but that's really not the case either. They just want different government. They're basically all riding in the same fucking donkey cart. It's a moot point, but right now, with the absolute shit show that is coming out of Washington, D.C., and the people that are trying really hard to justify and defend this fucking clusterfuck that this country has become, with what could barely be considered any kind of real grasp of concept of how economics work or how the world works, and just in general. They have this ideal of my feelings are right and what I believe is important, and I don't really care what I have to burn to get to it. And we've got assholes out here saying, oh, well, I don't mind coming out of pocket a few more bucks as long as we don't have X, Y, and Z. Well, you ignorant motherfucker, maybe that's okay for you, but you don't have a right to make that decision for the rest of the fucking country. So that's kind of an invalid argument. I don't give a fuck what you're okay with. I give a fuck about what I'm okay with. I give a fuck about what most people are okay with. And bitching and whining about the cost of living and then saying, well, we need a cost of living increase for all these, we need to raise the minimum wage to $17 an hour. And it pisses some people off when I say this, but if you want more than minimum wage, you need more than minimum skills. Minimum wage jobs were never intended to be fucking careers. And if that's the best work you're willing to put in, that's all you fucking deserve, and I really don't have any sympathy for you. You want more than minimum wage, you need to possess more than minimum value. You're not intrinsically entitled to be able to say, I'm going out and I'm going to do a minimum, no skills, no real contribution kind of job and expect to be living my best life. It's fucking ridiculously entitled. Now, on the other side of that coin, I believe any job that is a minimum wage job should not be allowed to hire 40-hour-a-week employees. If you are working a 40-hour-a-week job, you should be making a living wage. In the respect of you should be working somewhere that is going to pay you enough and give you benefits, but you should be providing value for that. You should not just be saying, I'm going to do a job that takes no skill and requires no real work, and I expect to have a decent living for it. Those kind of jobs should be entry-level jobs for, like, teenagers and shit. I've always believed that. I'm not going to fucking apologize for it. You want more than the minimum, you have to put in more than the minimum of fucking work. That's how the real world works. And that pisses people off. Now, the people that pisses off are the same ones that are looking at our current shit show of a country and saying things like, oh, well, maybe we need some inflation stimulus relief checks. That right there proves you don't understand how economics work. You're a fucking moron. You need to sit down, shut up, and let the fucking grown-ups handle the problems. Anything that involves the government handing out and just pulling money out of thin air will worsen inflation, not improve inflation. It's that fucking basic. If you don't get that, shut the fuck up. Seriously. And when you look in respects of the inflation and the supply shortages, and without going into conspiracy theory territories, all the food shortages that are coming, and they're going to be getting worse. There's been more fires, more plant disasters, more things being shut down. If you look at the infant formula shortage and the fact that the plants are shut down, and the government still doesn't have any problem giving away tons of shit to other countries and people that are not U.S. citizens, while the U.S. citizens foot the fucking bill for everything. Because, again, big reminder, the government does not make or create anything. The government takes and spends things that they did not earn. That's how they jack you for your taxes. They keep saying, oh, well, we just need a little more. We need a little bit more. We need to pay for this. We need to pay for that. We need to send billions of dollars to another country because, the starving people here don't matter. We're going to take money from the people here that work their asses off to provide for their families, and we're going to send it to other countries, and we're going to give it to people that don't deserve it. And why don't they deserve it? Because they didn't earn it. It's not fucking theirs, and it's not the government's to give away. And unfortunately, the system has gotten to the point where, that just doesn't even become a factor anymore. Part of it is because of these kind of people who are these assholes defending this shit. It makes them feel good. It makes them feel better. They don't mind giving up the extra. You don't mind giving up the extra? That's great. You're more than welcome to donate as much of your fucking check as you want. Me, in the last 4.5 weeks, I have incurred almost $5,000 worth of extra debt between trying to save the life of my last dog and trying to save the life of another dog now. I don't have extra money to just be fucking giving away. And I really don't know very many people in today's economy that do have money where they can just afford to be sending it off to other places. But it's happening. It's not happening by choice. We're not being given an opinion in the matter. There's a bunch of elitist cockstains in the fucking capital of this country that are just blithely distributing our income, distributing our resources, putting our children into debt to pay for their bullshit. And if you don't see the problem with that, you're part of the fucking problem. And one of the other arguments I'm getting so sick of hearing people are trying to justify the fact that we're hurting so bad at the pump. I'm seeing people posting pictures on social media of spending anywhere from like $85 to $150 to fill up gas tanks. And these are not like semi-trucks. These are not the guys that are used to spending $150 to fill up their tanks. It's people driving trucks, SUVs, sedans, any car with a gas tank bigger than 10 gallons, basically. Then you get people trying to justify this bullshit too. They say it's not the president's fault. They say it's not the government controlling the prices. It's supply and demand. It's the evil gas corporations. Meanwhile, the sitting president has pulled drilling leases all over the country, pulled leases in Alaska, pulled the leases in the Gulf, pulled leases in continental United States, effectively crippling fuel production in this country, literally destroying the energy independence that was established during the last administration. And I was not a huge fan of Trump either, but at least his priorities were our country first, and then we can worry about the rest of the fucking world. Taking care of domestic issues is supposed to be the whole point behind the federal fucking government, and not nearly to the degree which they seem to think they're entitled to. And it allows these things to happen. But we've got these fucking idiots going, oh, well, it's not the president's fault. Yes, the fuck it is. Every policy has put in place has decreased American independence. It has made us reliant on imported oil, which makes the price go up. It has made us have less available oil to be refined. Refineries aren't producing because they don't have the raw materials to work with for a variety of reasons. If we were still oil independent, the bullshit going on the other side of the planet would not be having the impact on us that it is. But it is. And it's not, honestly, at this point, I don't feel like it's by accident. And meanwhile, we've got American citizens who are taking this crunch, speaking on behalf of other American citizens, saying, well, I'll gladly pay this extra amount at the pump. And they try and justify it by things like, oh, well, in Germany, it's $8.50 a gallon. Well, you know, in Germany, they have their own economy. They have their own issues. They have their own standards of living. And who the fuck cares? We're not in Germany. That's not our fucking problem. Germany has to import their fuel oil. That is why they have to pay more for it. We should not be having to pay. We do not function in a global society. This is the United States of America, not the fucking Earth. Just because that's what they have to pay does not mean us paying more here all of a sudden is less shitty. What are the rest of the levels of their cost of living? How much of their wages go to certain expenses? None of those comparisons are being made by the assholes that go, well, they pay so much more in Europe, or they pay so much more in Australia, or they pay so much more here. Who the fuck asked? That's completely irrelevant to the situation. People need to stop trying to compare other countries to the way the economy in the United States works. You know why? Because there is a global economy, but that does not mean that their lifestyle standards are what ours have to be. We do not have to be paying those prices because we don't live there. It doesn't. I mean, it may sound kind of cold and callous, but honestly, I don't give a fuck. If I wanted to worry about what the cost of living in Germany was, I'd move to fucking Germany. And then I wouldn't have to worry about, speed limits and other shit like that. But I'd be in Germany. So yes, I'd be paying more for petrol. I'd be paying by the liter instead of by the gallon. And you know what? I would probably have the money to do it because it's part of their economy. It's the way it works. They actually have functioning public transportation. 95% of the people I know commute to work. They don't work within walking distance. They don't work within biking distance from where they live because this is America. It's a big-ass country, and we are spread the fuck out. We don't have densely populated urban areas everywhere you go, and it's unrealistic to expect people in this country to function as if the entire country was one massively densely populated urban area. There is not public transportation available everywhere you fucking look in this country. There is not reasonably priced things where you can say, oh, I'm going to get on the metro and I'm going to have this rail pass that I pay $35 a month for, and I can go anywhere I need to be when I need to be there because there's a train running every 15 minutes. So, no, the standards aren't the same. So it's not an equivalent comparison. It is a false equivalency because you're only looking at one line item thing without looking at all the contributory factors to the overall quality of life and end result. So you need to take that false equivalency bullshit and shut the fuck up. And by and wide, when I see people making these comments online, I never get to them when it's a fresh statement. And then there are, thousands of comments and responses and all this other shit. And invariably, the threads are muted by the original posters because they said what they had to say, and they don't give a shit if somebody else has something that contradicts what they think because they thought it, so it must be fucking right. And I can honestly say I don't think I've ever muted a thread on anything I've ever posted. I don't think I've ever silenced other people's opinions. I've had a lot of people walk away because I wouldn't come around to their way of thinking, and they just thought that was such a waste of time. Like, I can't believe I spent all this time arguing with you, and you still won't admit I'm right. Motherfucker, I spent all that time arguing with you, and you won't admit I'm right either, but somehow I wasted your time. What about my time, you piece of shit? Oh, no, your time's the only thing that's valuable. So, yeah, go fuck yourself. I don't have patience for this hypocritical bullshit anymore. It's driving me nuts because these are the fucking people that are ruining my fucking life. I mean, granted, a lot of the problems that are in my life are the direct results of decisions I've made, choices I've made, things I've done, and I will admit that. However, the overarching bullshit that I'm having to deal with, the ridiculous levels of inflation because people keep doing things based on their feelings and putting assholes in office that have no idea what the fuck they're doing. They just serve their interests and their masters and the people that buy and pay for them and spend our money willy-nilly like they had a fucking clue. It's not like all of these politicians that are getting elected over and over again have ever done anything to prove they should be keeping their fucking jobs. Every single one of these assholes would get a very low performance evaluation if they had to work in the real world. None of them are particularly bright if you listen to them speak. Yeah, they may sound good. They may look good in a fucking suit. They may present well on television, but they're not all that fucking bright. And we've spent so long voting for charisma, voting for personality, without actually considering the utility of the people we're putting in power, that the direct result is the shit show we're dealing with now. And we've allowed these assholes to just bore themselves in and become entrenched like fucking ticks, and without putting in the necessary checks and balances to keep the system the way it was intended. There is no reason, people like Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell should still be in fucking office. They should be in a goddamn home somewhere, and if there was any justice, they wouldn't be in a nice home that they can afford. They'd be in one of those public housing fucking homes where they might get their bed sheets changed once a month if they behave, and if they shit themselves, they're just going to have to either wash their own ass or get the fuck over it and itch. They are just horrible, worthless shells of human beings, and they dictate policy for this country. We don't allow people of a certain age to hold any kind of real significance in this country unless they're in office. And then we act like they're some kind of demigods, like everything they say should be treated as fact. These should be some of the most questioned and fucking accountable people on the planet. And for some goddamn reason, we let them treat us like they're not. We don't work for them. We're not here for their comfort and their convenience, and they've forgotten it. We've fucking forgotten it. And meanwhile, the country's fucking, it's the Titanic heading for an iceberg. This country is well and truly fucked if we don't wake up and do something about it. And I honestly don't see it happening. I think our days as a powerhouse empire on the planet are done. The conditions that rocketed the United States to the forefront of being a world leader are no longer applicable. We don't lead the world in literally fucking anything at this point. We don't have a lot of innovation coming out where everybody is looking to us as a bastion of anything other than, if you look at all the really shitty oppressed countries, all the socialist, hardcore socialist, borderline communist, actual communist countries, all those places that a lot of dipshits in this country are trying to turn the United States into, they have this beautiful idealized version of what the U.S. is, of what the U.S. stands for. I saw a meme a couple of years ago, and it brought a tear to my eye because it said, we should be the United States that Hong Kong thinks we are. They're over there literally fighting for their freedoms and the things that this country is supposed to stand for, and we've got people that literally only have a voice because they live in a country where freedom is supposed to be an ideal, over here just trying to take it away from everybody and just trying to give it up and hand it over. Anybody that thinks big government's an answer is your fucking enemy, whether you realize it or not. Anybody that thinks we need to give more power to these corrupt, worthless fuckers than they already have is your enemy. I mean, I'm not trying to incite any kind of, issues. I'm just saying critical thinking would not be a bad thing. There's a lot more of us than there are of them. And we've got, if you look and start going, like I tend to stray into conspiracy territory from time to time because, frankly, it entertains me. And these days, it's more like, spoilers than it is conspiracies because they've been proven to be right so much lately. It's hard to discount them. And they're talking about things like UN talking about putting troops on the ground. And anybody that thinks that's a good idea is a dipshit for multiple reasons. But that will lead to a fucking war. Now, I think the powers that be actually want that. That promotes a case of domestic unrest, which will, I'm sure, in their minds, allow them to just throw the Constitution right in the fucking garbage where they want it anyway, so they can start enacting military law here on U.S. soil and shut down the country. Anybody that doesn't agree with the system will be labeled a dissident. There's going to be camps. There's going to be people getting arrested. But on the other side of that, they're going to find out what that whole Japanese statement during World War II of behind every blade of grass. There is going to be all kinds of guerrilla shit going on. There is going to be people getting shot. There's going to be things getting blown the fuck up. Because that was kind of the point behind the Constitution, behind the documents that founded this country, is when the overreach happens, when tyranny rears its ugly fucking head, the U.S. population fights back. We maintain our freedom. So, am I calling for it? No. Am I saying that I think it's going to happen? I think that's probably in the fucking cards at this point. Maybe not in my lifetime, but not too much farther away. They're not even trying to hide the boot at this point. They're stepping on everybody's necks. And if they bring the UN troops in here, I think that would be the straw that broke the camel's back. I think this country will go to fucking war because there are a lot of people out there, whether you want to call them domestic terrorists, whether they call themselves patriots, whether they call themselves preppers. A foreign power attempts to establish domination over the citizens of the United States, whether it be with the government's blessing or not. There are thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that are not going to tolerate it. There are former military people that are not going to put up with that shit. There are wackadoos living in the woods in a bunker they built themselves completely off the grid that are not going to put up with that shit. Tanks are going to come rolling into the U.S. soil. There are plenty of people in this country that know how to take a tank out. So a lot of them served. Some of them haven't, because the ones that have served have made the information public knowledge. Who better to tell you how to take out a tank than somebody that spent 10 years driving one? So I see a lot of problems on the horizon. I see the administration that is currently in power steering into it, and they're not steering into the skid, they're steering into the fucking storm. You got Biden, who literally has no respect on the global stage, telling China if they start messing with Hong Kong, they're going to answer to us because we are going to defend them and blah, blah, blah. This cocksucker is going to get us into World War III because nobody respects him, man. The way he botched the removal of troops from Afghanistan, the way he's handled everything that has come across his desk, nobody gives a fuck what he has to say. Sleepy Joe thinks he's intimidating something. He thinks people are going to go, oh, the big bad U.S. is going to protect Taiwan. China doesn't give a single solitary fuck what Joe has to say about the matter. So, yeah, like I said, I think bad shit's on the horizon. I think they are pushing for conflict, both domestically and foreignly. And I think things are going to get rough. They're going to get bad. And as long as we're busy arguing with each other about it, as long as we've got the people on the left trying to defend these assholes, and we've got the people on the right saying only a different set of assholes are going to fix things, shy of tearing the entire thing down and rebuilding it, I honestly don't think fixing things is on the table, because it would require all these assholes that are in power and are in the position that needs to be adjusted to admit they are part of the problem and to adjust the bills. That's why you get senators like Rand Paul, and they try, and they raise some good points. They try and buck the system, but one guy can't do it. They don't have the support. They don't have enough vocal people in this country saying, look, if you shitheads don't get on board and start doing things the right way, you're fucking done. They've got enough apologists and enough people that somehow think they're going to fix things by, oh yeah, no, it's just our way's right and you guys have got to come around. No, none of it fucking works, and that's what nobody seems to want to acknowledge. Nobody wants to say the system is fucked. The system needs to be rebuilt. It needs to be reinstituted. We need term limits. We need things like you don't get paid and you get a stipend. You know, the way the original Congress and Senate and all those positions were paid. You get a daily stipend. And that's what you get. And then, they decided instead it should be a salary. And then they decided they should be able to give themselves raises. They should not be able to give themselves raises. They should not be able to determine what they are getting paid. They should not be dictating policy for we get a raise whether we do a good job or not. Whether or not they get a raise should be something that's on a ballot and voted for by the American people. The problem is they won't do that because they know they won't be getting their fucking raises. Plus, there's the whole how secure is the voting really? I mean, if it really mattered, would they still let us do it? I don't think so at this point. So, I don't know. I'm kind of talking in circles. Just the whole situation's pissing me off. Stop defending these assholes. Stop standing up for these dumb motherfuckers. And in the meantime, there's things out there. Just try and better your own situation. I've talked about it before. I'm not the best one to talk about it. Diversify your income. Get multiple sources of money coming in. Find something that you can uniquely do and find a way to fucking monetize it. Nobody else is going to save you. You need to get your shit together. Mind your own house. The country can't do it, but you can do it for yourself. You can mind your own affairs, get your shit settled, get things straightened out, make your life better. Nobody's going to do it for you. And for now, that's what I had to say.
Thanks for listening to another episode of I Had to Say It. If you liked what you heard, leave a review, give us a follow, give me some feedback. And if you didn't like what you heard, leave a review, give me a follow, give me some feedback. I'll try and fix it. Check us out on all the social media platforms at I Had to Say It Podcast is the trigger for all that stuff, for the search term. And if you want, check out the website, www.ihadtosayitpodcast.com. There's links to people that have been involved with the program, things I've talked about. There are some links available for some merch that we're working on, and there are ways to contact us there as well. And thanks for listening, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.